Hi,
Iris.
Ahmed. I was very intrigued by your suggestions about the Shakespeare, and I don't know if you had the chance to see the Shakespeare Globe Theatre here in the UK, but I had a visit there once, and because I'm hearing impaired and visually impaired, I wasn't able to see it. But I just thought I'd like to share a little thing with you, in that I can imagine that experience for Shakespeare at that particular time. You could almost feel the acoustics around you because it's like a sort of globe theatre, as you know. It's all made out of wood, and when you touch the wooden surfaces, you could feel the person speaking. And obviously, when they did that during that period of time, they really had to project their voices in such a way to get the expressions, the emotions, and so on. And that's quite tricky. And I just think listening to what other people are saying about trying to portray this. I suppose I'm not an actor or anything like that, but I'm just thinking, well, you really have to get inside that character, what you're presenting.
The one that you visited is absolutely a replica, not only in the looks, but in the construction as well. So the wood can't be exactly the same wood, but they got as close to the same wood, and the way they constructed it using even the same tools that the original was. Any actor worth his salt knows that you should always talk towards wood. Stay away from stone, stay away from cement, stay away from steel. It doesn't bounce like wood does. So yes, that helps the acoustics. Understand also that the Globe, although it seems like a big theater, it's a very intimate theater. So the actors did have to project, but they didn't have to project as much as, let's say, working in a Broadway house or something like that. But even in a Broadway house nowadays, or on the West End for that matter, mics are used. You're not aware of them, but being used.
I was lucky enough to work there a few years ago. And the thing that you had to, it was a technical challenge more than anything else, because there was a point on the stage where you could just whisper and everybody could hear you.
Yeah.
But if you go 4 feet one way or 2 feet another, you have to build up the volume so that people can hear you, because everything disappears into the sky because there's no ceiling, no roof.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing that I don't know, because when you lose one sense, as if I take my implants off, I'm totally deaf, and I become very aware of vibrations. My whole world is how I feel music through vibrations. But I've also become very aware of environmental sounds, how you feel different sounds around your environment. You can feel traffic, you can feel all sorts of things.
Do you know that there's a growing field for what you just described? That theaters are looking for sound designers, not necessarily to make the words clear, but for the very thing, the colors that you were just talking about. That's something that is a growing field in the theater. I'm not suggesting you go into it, but should you be
no idea.
look into it, that what the background sounds are, not just honking of horns and stuff, but types of vibrations, as you said. That's very much part of the soundscape, they call it, of a play.
It's interesting what you say. I think we're becoming more aware of our environment, our acoustical environment, much more these days.
Russ, will you do me a favor? Send Mel, if she doesn't have it, your website so that I can visit it.
Sure, my pleasure.
And let me throw it over to Sid.
Let's get on with this. Let's get on with talking to people, because I know we're running out of time.
All right, we're going to start with Colin, who has a birthday today. Not that Colin, the other Colin.
Hello.
Happy birthday, Collins. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you as well.
Ages.
Yeah, how have you been?
I've been really well, thank you. I've been really well.
Good.
No complaints. How about yourself?
I was having a bit of a crap week, but you guys have all just changed all that. So the last hour has just been bathing in the family that is the Deep Space Nine, Sid City, Mel, emporium of brilliance, and that's enough words, I think. But yes, no, it's really made it. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Did you watch? I don't want to ask what a crap weekend. I don't want you to relive week you've had, because you just have to relive it all.
Oh, it was just. I think for the first time, I was like, it just got to me a little bit, and then I kind of bounced back, and it's like, yeah, it's we'll get through it. It's coming. The inauguration, I think, was a sort of sort of did a lot. That's why everyone's very smiley this week, right? And it just sort of went, okay, cool. It's just get over it. So all is well.
Especially that young 22-year-old person who read a poem.
They should just inaugurate her right now, and that other guy can right now. But
I was watching her and fighting back the sweat that was pouring down her face, and she just looked more beautiful and more beautiful every couple of minutes as she got into it.
Every word she said, and every
poetry.
articulation, and it's just like, I've got to watch it again. But I like, it's like I'm not doing it just because I know I'll just become a mess. You know, I'll watch it again. But it's yeah, it's been a good week. It's towards the end of the week, it's been good.
Good.
But yeah,
how's work? What's going on in that part of the world?
Oh, it's just, I mean, it's we're all still working from home. We're very lucky. We're doing very well, and I'm just organizing a online conference for 500 people virtually, and that's doing my head in. But but all good, all fine. Yes, and the UK has been kind of wet and cold and snowy and just so
yeah, funky in the wrong kind of way.
That's right. It's just every day there's an extra 4 minutes of light, and it's just it's coming. It's been wicked. Yeah, what have you been up to? Have you been reading or?
I have. I've been reading. I read really to. I kind of read to work. I mean, so because we have a teeny little production company that wishes it could be a little bit bigger, but it's very early days, and we have to read copious books. And my technique is to read books that were huge about 10 years ago that didn't get made into films or TV shows, because obviously they've been passed on by all the big studios and all the other production companies. And if I can find gems in there, then I can approach the agent and say, how about giving us this book for a song, because we don't have any money. But so I read on that level. And one of the things that I'm obsessed with is identity, as you probably know, as we've been hanging out anywhere near this social club, because we're all kind of juggling it. So I'm always looking for ideas and books and or anything really, ideas that have identity running down them. But there has to be what they call an IP, an intellectual property attached, so that I can. There's plausible deniability down the road, because if it's just my idea, it'll be like, why did you invest in his idea? Why didn't you invest in a novel? So we try and buy novels. So that's happening. So that's kind of what keeps me sort of busy, keeps me above board, stops me kind of sinking under. But I'm really, you know, in a weird way, I'm glad that you hit a brick wall about COVID, because I think really the important thing is that people take it more seriously now than they ever have, is the important thing. It is about as dangerous as it has ever been, and it's going to get more dangerous. And if you're not completely anal about it, it will get you.
Exactly. I just had my dad going, oh, we're getting vaccinated on Friday. I was like, no partying, stay at home, you know, because they're continuing to say 3 weeks for anything to be in your immune system, and then wait for the second, and so everyone still has to behave the same way. It's a really, really long, hard slog.
It is, and it's depressing.
But just we've done a year of it. We can do another 3 or 4 months. So
we've got to get better at it. I mean, kindergarten mathematics will tell you that the probability is now higher that you'll catch it than at any point in the past.
Yeah.
So it's worth being much more careful than, even though we're not quite so frightened anymore. We need sort of self-induced fear, really.
I think I got more frightened a little bit. I think I got a little bit of a cough one day, and I was like, how the hell did that happen? And so I was like, right, shields up, not gonna just risk anything. So it's weird. It's anyway, all good.
Anyway, it's all good. It's all
I'm really delighted that you're doing a production company. I think that's a brilliant move. And the next 10-part series on HBO that costs $10 million an episode is starring you. I'm looking forward to that.
I don't think, well, maybe one day. I mean, right now, we think of it as my great friend, Alistair Petrie, who's an actor, a really fabulous one. He's in Sex Education. I don't know if you've seen it. And he's also been in Star Wars and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, cool.
And he's been ever since acting school, we've been close friends, and we've often toyed with the idea of coming up with a production company. And so we finally did it, but really in terms of, it's going to be our pension, you know, because acting's just going to fall off the cliff. Acting does not last. One day I'll wake up and people will be like sick and tired of me, or I'll forget what I'm doing and I forget how to do it. So I've just got to plan for the next, 20 years.
No, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But we will see you on the screen again for a long time, I'm sure.
Oh, you'll see me in reruns.
Looking forward to that. Well, it's been great to catch up. I know there's a lot of other people waiting to hang out.
It's lovely to see you again. And
yeah, likewise. Great to see you.
Stopped for a while, so it's good to catch up. Yeah, absolutely. Come back.
I will. I always do. It's great to see you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday!
Cheers.
A very happy birthday, Colin!
Happy birthday, Colin!
Birthday to me. I mean you. I mean me. I mean you.
Quark left me this drink.
Happy birthday!
See you soon.
Nice one, Colin.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, I nearly forgot.
All right, we have another one. We've got, I think it's probably pronounced Louis.
Yes, that's correct.
Here we go. Hi. Happy birthday.
Louis. Well, let's say happy birthday to you right away, because I don't want to get to the end and get swept away on another thought and forget.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Birthday.
Where are you?
I'm in Oxford. I'm okay.
You're okay. So it's
Okay.
I think okay is pretty good by and large, relatively speaking. As long as you're okay for you, then that's probably it's okay. I'm assuming it's just a sort of good a neutral.
I would say neutral is pretty accurate at the moment.
Okay, yeah. And how is it living around there? Is it kind of doable? I know everybody's on lockdown in Britain.
I think we've got our strictest lockdown now at least since April. I've been pretty oblivious to it. I've been working throughout, so doesn't affect me too much.
What do you do? What work do you do that keeps you in and busy?
So I'm a postdoc at the university, and I do COVID research actually.
Oh my goodness! Right. Wow. And how's it going? I mean, do you feel like there's a corner being turned in terms of the depth of knowledge?
I think the corner that was turned happened in December when the new variants were discovered. And so that's the first time that my area, which is genomic epidemiology, really came to the forefront. That's really tracking the new variants using the genomes.
Right. And are you well equipped to do that? Do you feel that there's enough tracing and testing to actually, because I know that there are problems with the new South African variant, which is only quite recently discovered, that people don't know whether it's already in other countries or not, because the testing and tracing hasn't been up to speed.
It is in other countries, I can assure you. So in the UK, we're doing great in terms of genomic surveillance. We're really good. But other countries are lagging behind. So a few countries are doing well, like the UK and Denmark are doing really well. South Africa is doing surprisingly well as well. But other countries like other European countries and the US are not doing great. You can't see what's there if you're not surveilling, if you don't have an idea of what's out there. So there's no way to know which variants are around if you're not sampling things.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you know about the South African variant? Because I know that the British variant, whatever it is, it's hard to call them. You can only call them geographically, and this is just how we heard about it. But
yeah, that's actually a sore point to. Sorry to interrupt there, but So calling it the South African variant or the British variant or the Brazilian variant is something that we're trying to discourage.
Right.
Just because this has been used before for diseases and you don't really want to go down that path again. And also just because we don't know if they actually arose in the UK or in South Africa. They probably did, but we don't know this for sure.
The Spanish flu, perhaps, which was now infamous, but may have originated in America, as far as anybody.
I think it was first found in Kansas.
It was just up the road from me.
There you go.
Right.
From a military airbase, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Spanish flu is a prime example of that. So that's why you do not want to do this. And of course, we all heard about the China virus last year. So no, don't want to do that.
Yeah, that was pure politics, and I suspect it always is. But how do you distinguish variants if you don't geographically distinguish them at first?
So you have to look at the mutations that they carry. So variants carry certain mutations, and so all three of these variants that we're worried about now, they carry a certain mutation called N501Y, which means a certain amino acid has changed from an N to a Y. But they also have other mutations, and so like the South African variant and the Brazilian variant, so to use the terminology I said I shouldn't be using, the variants that arose in South Africa and Brazil, they also carry another mutation that's called E484K, I think, and that's a little more worrying. So we just classify them based on which mutations they carry.
Right. Yeah, and Dr. Fauci, the famous Dr. Fauci now probably all over the world, was saying yesterday that even though they're more worrying, these new variants, these Southern Hemisphere variants, are they're still within the cushion of in terms of vaccination, so that they may not be as efficacious as they are with the Northern Hemisphere variant. Let's go with that. They are certainly efficacious enough so that people needn't be too alarmed about, as far as everybody knows right now, too alarmed about.
That's what we hope. We don't know entirely. So as a scientist, I don't want to say definitely one way or the other, but probably vaccines would still be useful for them. Maybe not as much as for the so-called wild type. And just because the vaccines are creating such a wide variety of antibodies that just a few mutations aren't going to completely inactivate the vaccine.
And how did you get into this world, into this industry?
So it's actually something I did my PhD on a few years back. I was working more on sort of not viruses, and then the West African Ebola virus epidemic happened, and did a bit of research on that, and just went down that road. And it's been 5 years or so just working on viruses, no more than 6 or 7 years now, and I guess about 10 years working on genomic epidemiology in a wider sense, or more genome kind of stuff.
And for youngsters who fascinated by this, what do they need to? What direction do they? That first foot. Let's going to step in one direction. Would it be biology?
I never touched biology until my master's degree, and I had to catch up. I've never been in a lab really. I'm terrible in labs. So if you want to do genomic epidemiology, like tracing viruses, tracing the epidemic spreads using their genomes and building trees, you need to know a bit of programming, a bit of coding, you need to know some statistics. Biology is useful, but it's not a must.
Right. So that would be the must.
Yeah. If you want to actually be doing the sequencing and sequencing the genomes, then you do need some biology. So that's something I unfortunately can't do.
Because I think that a whole bunch of youngsters, and not even just youngsters, oldsters too, would be, after this particular period, are going to be really fascinated by this particular path, and this is a possible career. Because and as far as we understand it, or at least we're being warned as a public, that these events could become more common.
They probably will, unfortunately. That's just the way the world is going.
It's not a
So this-
centennial.
No, unfortunately not.
What brings you the greatest pleasure right now? I mean, you've had a year to sort of think about it and figure out how you unwind and relax and just get in touch with whatever spirit. What is it that triggers that?
I think these days the best thing to do is something like this, where you're just trying to connect with people in other parts of the world, because we can't really see each other in person anymore.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the best thing I can do at the moment.
Absolutely. And we have a couple of other people who are in your field. I don't know if you've heard them or made contact with them, but you should. I mean, if it's useful to you, the splinter groups that appear in them. Obviously, the largest is fictional writing, but there's also art and knitting and all sorts of fantastic stuff going on that everyone finds a niche for. With that, because and I know that they're based in Norway, I believe, or maybe Copenhagen. Anyway, it'll come to me. No, it won't. That's a lie. It won't come to me at all. It'll come to Mel.
You're thinking of Suleika's husband, and also I think Max in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. When you first started work, I mean, you're working at Oxford, yes?
I'm working at Oxford, yes.
And is it the famous college in Oxford or one of the other colleges?
No, it's the University of Oxford. It's the one that's been around for 1,000 years.
Absolutely. How was that on when you were invited after to come and work at one of the finest institutions in the world, that with so much history, that when you walk in there you just go, oh, I've seen this on TV, I've been reading about this all my life, and this is the hallowed grounds of whatever college it is that you might be at?
Well, you'd think so, but as a postdoc, I'm not part of any college. So I never had a college experience. As I joined the zoology department, people who've been to Oxford might know that the zoology department used to be based in this brutalist building that was just a mess of concrete. So it didn't really feel like a hallowed hall. And exactly 3 months after I started working in Oxford, the building got condemned because they found loads of asbestos in it. They started.
Is Richard Dawkins still there? Is he still part of the zoology department?
I'm sure he drops around a few times from time to time.
Yeah. But
since we've been kind of homeless, we haven't really had a departmental home for a while. So
you work off your computer. It's modeling and understanding models and working on various types of probability, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but I do work from an office, not from home most of the time.
That's really fascinating. Are you living with family, or are you? Because I'm about to ask you if you're having trouble in terms of not having trouble, but how it is living with family.
No, I actually live alone. I actually have no family in the UK.
And where are you? Where are your family?
They're in South Africa, actually.
Oh wow! Okay. Wow.
Most of them are in South Africa.
I've spent some time in South Africa. I've shot several films there, so I've been months and months. It's a pretty amazing place, I have to say.
It's great.
Johannesburg, or?
I'm from Johannesburg. My sister's living in Cape Town now, so I have family in Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Yeah, Johannesburg. We went. I've been several times just to Johannesburg. I've only been once to Cape Town, but Johannesburg is this incredible mess of humanity, and I spent a lot of time in the fanciest part. I can't remember what it's called. Some Sanford village or Stanford village. Santon, which is where they put actors. And back a few years ago, they had real security problems, so we had to have security guards following us everywhere. But I just loved it. I thought it was really vibrant. There's a huge shopping mall in Santon. Yeah,
it's actually quite far from where I grew up. I grew up in the south of Johannesburg, in the deep south.
Right. Do you have a memory of the apartheid years?
I do. I actually remember when my parents went to vote in the first democratic election. I went with them at the time to the local high school to vote. But I don't really remember the apartheid years exactly.
No, it was, I mean, you don't quite, to be, with respect, don't look quite old enough to have actually been, you know, had a formed mind during that time, at least a political one.
I wasn't aware of what was happening. I can remember being in kindergarten and them showing us things from like how to spot a terrorist or how to spot a hand grenade, but otherwise not really anything. I remember people speaking a lot about Nelson Mandela when I was like 6 years old, but
Yeah.
not
I was
really
politicized by the plays of Athol Fugard, and who's a great, as you know, South African playwright. And people who don't know him, he's astonishing. If you like reading plays, boy, you're in for a treat. And I did a play called Statements After an Arrest Under the Immorality Act, is what it's called. And the clever thing about it is that the two actors in bed are naked throughout the whole thing. And obviously we have sheets and things, but the courtroom and the police come in and the whole scene is played, the whole play is played in their bedroom while they're naked, as if it's a courtroom. And it was just mind-blowing experience, and it politicized me about South Africa. And I began to, you know, have a sense of what it was like there. But I think I'm really amazed at how they've done a really good job since Mandela took over, of not holding on to the bitterness as a group. I know there's corruption and there's problems, and that, you know, now obviously white people find that they can't get work, etc., etc. But there's a real element, there's a real earnest attempt at trying to build bridges and, you know, take down fences, which I think is something that South Africa should be pretty proud of.
I think there has been that attempt from a lot of people. I think there is a minority of people who are very bitter as well. It's a big problem, but I also feel like I'm not really the person to speak about that, since I haven't lived in South Africa for 12 years now, so I can't call myself an expert on the situation there anymore. That would be unfair.
Well, you're an expert in the sense that, you know, part of your soul is there, and you probably, your ears pick up when, you know, you hear something with the two words in the sentence. I'm not an expert on Sudan, but when I hear it or I read a bit about it, I see it in the news, I'm like, oh, I'll read that, because it obviously fascinates me.
Definitely, I understand that.
Yeah.
Whenever it's in the news, I have to look at it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really glad you dropped by and came to say hi. I don't know if you had anything to ask me, because I tend to monopolize conversations.
I did want to ask you one thing about acting, or about voice acting specifically, because with the current situation, we have to record talks and seminars and lectures and things, and do a lot more of that than before. And I'm not very comfortable listening to myself or looking at myself on video. So I don't know if you have any tips for getting around that.
I don't watch my films if I can possibly help it. I just really don't like to see myself on screen, in the same way that you don't like seeing yourself in a photograph. It's like, everybody looks great except for that guy. What I would recommend, if you have to do it quite a lot, for about £20 or £15, you can buy a small microphone that would fit on your lapel.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you a bit of distance from your phone, because this is very difficult and kind of alien. So you can just talk normally and look at your phone if you've got notes on there or whatever it is you want to say. So that's a technical thing that you should really do if you can get together the £15 or £20. I think it's called lavalier microphone, if the technical term.
I generally just use earbuds with a microphone inside.
There you go. That works just great. That works perfectly. Got to tell you, you've got a perfectly fine voice.
Thank you.
You have absolutely nothing to worry about there.
That helps a bit. I have to give a webinar next week, so I'm a bit nervous about that.
Well, a warm light is quite nice. So if you've got a light in front of you, around you, you can buy orange see-through gels, just orange, like it looks orange, but it'll add a warmth to the face. And or put some parchment paper over a harsh light. Those things, lighting and sound, are the two vital things, says the guy who's sitting in a room with terrible light. But that's just the way it is. But those two things are the things that help when you're doing projecting, when you want people to pay attention, because now we've all become so accustomed to Zooms and everybody looks so fabulous on the news. You've got to get up to speed. So it's worth spending a little bit of money if you have to do it quite a lot on a light. One of those ring lights will do just fine. And then just playing around with it.
Yeah, it's just hard to play around with it if you don't like doing it.
Yeah, I know, but you have to.
It's a really I have to get used to this
thing you have to do. Yeah, it is. It's something. It disassociate it from vanity, because that's one of the obstacles. It's not a vanity. It's a practical necessity.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For what it's worth.
Louis, you have a lovely voice. I think you're gonna.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mel.
All right, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, Sid.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
weekend.